thank you for availing yourself for this important engagement. This briefing seeks to provide clarity, context, and reassurance regarding the 2025 financial results of the Bank of Ghana, BOG, particularly in light of ongoing public discussions about the bank's reported losses and equity position. As the majority side of the Committee on Economy and Development and the entire majority, we consider it necessary in the interest of transparency and informed public discourse to place these results within their proper context, proper economic and policy context. Ladies and gentlemen, at face value, the bank reported a net loss of 15.6 billion Ghana cedis in 2025 fiscal year, and other comprehensive income charge of 19.32 billion, a negative equity position of 96.3 billion. While these figures are significant, necessary, they must not be interpreted through a narrow lens of commercial banking. I repeat, while these figures are significant, they must not be interpreted through the narrow lens of commercial banking. Central banking is fundamentally a public policy function, and its financial outcomes often reflect the cost of stabilizing the economy. To be fully appreciate the 2025 results, one must consider the recent historical context between 2022 to 2024. The Bank of Ghana recorded cumulative losses of approximately 80.85 billion Ghana cedis. That is where I want the press to lay more emphasis on. To fully appreciate the 2025 results, one must consider the recent historical context. Between 2022-2024, the Bank of Ghana recorded cumulative losses of approximately 80.85 billion Ghana cedis in the era of the MPP. For instance, in 2022, the Bank of Ghana incurred a loss of 60.81 billion Ghana cedis, 10.55 billion in 2023, and in 2024, 9.49 billion Ghana cedis. This period coincided with one of the most severe macroeconomic crises in Ghana. Inflation, listen to me now, inflation surged at a peak of 54.13% in 2022, before declining to 23.84% by the end of 2024. The Ghana cedi experienced significant depreciation, reaching approximately 17 cedis to $1 by December 2024, representing a depreciation of about 19.7%. Gross national reserves stood at about $9.3 billion in 2024, covering 4 months of import cover of goods and services. At the same time, the bank's equity position weakened, recording negative 64.34 billion Ghana cedis in 2023, improved slightly to a negative 61 billion in 2024. Given this consideration, my friends, the 2025 financial outcome must be understood as the continuation of a deliberate and necessary policy intervention. I want to lay more emphasis here. Given this consideration, the 2025 financial outcomes must be understood as the continuation of a deliberate and necessary policy intervention. In 2025, the bank's balance sheet reflected a debt position of 96 billion, right? However, macroeconomic indicators show a strong and decisive turnaround. Inflation declined sharply to 5.2% by the end of 2025, further to 3.2% in March 2026. The Ghana cedi appreciated significantly by about 40.7% against the US dollar and other hard currencies. Gross national reserves increased substantially to approximately 13 billion US dollars, providing about 5.7 months of import cover of goods and services. Importantly, under the Ghana Accelerated National Reserve Accumulation Program for 2026 to 2028, reserves are projected to reach up to 15 months of import cover, significantly strengthening Ghana's external buffers. Economic growth also strengthened, with GDP expanding by about 61% in 2025 and non-oil GDP growth reaching 7.8%. The size of the economy increased to approximately 113 billion US dollars, with per capita income rising to about $3,193 for each Ghanaian. This improvement did not occur by chance. They are the direct outcome of policy measures undertaken by the Bank of Ghana. For instance, the domestic exchange program reduced interest income on government securities, leading to an estimated shortfall of about 13 billion Ghana cedis in 2025. Let's go and check this. While this policy contributed to financial losses, it was essential to restoring debt sustainability. We also acknowledge the significant burden the program placed on bondholders, particularly our retirees. Additionally, the bank undertook aggressive open market operations to control inflation, incurring interest costs of about 16.7 billion Ghana cedis. These were deliberate interventions aimed at absorbing excess liquidity and restoring monetary stability. The appreciation of the cedi, while positive for the country, resulted in accounting valuation losses on foreign assets reflected as charges. Similarly, the gold accumulation program, which strengthens reserves and reduces foreign exchange dependence, generated accounting charges of about 9 billion Ghana cedis, despite its strong long-term benefits. Friends from the media fraternity, it is therefore important to emphasize that these financial outcomes do not impair the operational capacity of the Bank of Ghana. I'm also stressing here. It is therefore important to emphasize that these financial outcomes do not impair the operational capacity of the Bank of Ghana. The bank continues to effectively deliver on its core mandate. And what's the core mandate of Bank of Ghana, every central bank? Ensuring price stability, maintaining financial system stability, managing the national currency, and safeguarding reserve. Now, negative equity in central banking is an accounting condition and does not imply insolvency. Let's take it again. Negative equity in central banking is an accounting condition and does not imply insolvency. Central banks are not profit-making institutions. Central banks are not profit-maximizing institutions. Rather, they are stabilizing institutions. Simply put, the bank's balance sheet reflects the cost of stabilizing the economy during a period of severe economic distress. That is where I want the press to carry it. That's why I want the press to carry it. I'm taking it again. Central banks are not profit-maximizing institutions like the commercial banks. Rather, they are stabilizing institutions. Simply put, the bank's balance sheet reflects the cost of stabilizing the economy during a period of severe economic distress. My friends from the media, you know the economy we inherited, Ghanaians inherited from the MPP at the beginning of 2025. And these are the results. These are the diagnosed medicine. Diagnosed medicine for this economy. For this financial and price stability we are enjoying in this country. Indeed, global experience shows that major central banks, including European Central Bank, the United States Federal Reserve, and the Reserve Bank of Australia, have recorded losses during period of aggressive policy tightening. Aggressive policy tightening, like what we had in Ghana, whilst achieving their policy objectives. What matters most is the outcome of the policy. What is the outcome of the policy? We all know it. On this front, the evidence is clear in that inflation is down to single digits, exchange rate has stabilized and strengthened, reserves have increased significantly, interest rates are easing, credit conditions are improving, and economic growth is robust. Looking ahead, these costs are expected to moderate as open market operation expenses will decline as liquidity conditions normalize. Exchange rate volatility will reduce, and the effect of the DDEP will gradually unwind. Furthermore, government commitment to recapitalizing the bank under the appropriate legal framework will strengthen its balance sheet over the medium term. In view of this, in 2025 financial year results of the bank must be understood for what they truly represent, but not seen as a failure. But the cost of restoring stability, rebuilding confidence, and securing the future of Ghanaian economy. We therefore commend with the majority side. We therefore commend the Bank of Ghana and the governor for a decisive policy action during the period of extraordinary economic crisis. We also urge the public, analysts, media, stakeholders, interpret central bank financial statement within proper policy context, focusing on not only on accounting outcomes, but also on the broader macroeconomic results. Results. We on this side of Parliament, majority side, especially members on Economic and Development Committee, remains committed to our oversight responsibility and will continue to engage the bank and the other stakeholders to ensure sustained economic stability, transparency, and accountability in the management of Ghana's economy. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.